one from chapter 7. You know, I'm reluctant to read. But I promise you it's there. He tells them what they've done. And he says, I didn't command that. And it never entered my mind that you would do such a thing. Never entered my mind that you would do that. Some translations say it never entered my thoughts. I don't like reading. They did. 3 different gods are mentioned. Because they kept going from false god to false god. 7, 19, and 32. One time it says they did it to Baal. Another time they did it to Chemosh. Another time they did it to Moloch. Well, if God's not omniscient, how can he make wonderful prophecies? Oh, that's easy. I can even make prophecies. I've never missed on a Philadelphia election. I can always tell you how they're going to turn out. All the people in the news business make prophecies all the time. Most of the time they're true. They're right on. They're very seldom surprised. The Dewey victory over Truman was a big surprise. That was what the newsmen believed. Dewey beats Truman. It was the headlines in the paper. Truman beat Dewey, and he held up the headline, to mock the people who had predicted it wrong. But most of the time, the newsmen get the elections right. They're better than the weather forecasters. And even the weather forecasters get it right sometimes. Oh yes, forecasting is not too difficult. My best forecast was in 1970. I went around the world as part of my work for CBS. And when I was in Japan, I was tremendously impressed by the Japanese culture, how polite they were, how clean everything was. When I went into a department store, there was a girl in uniform by the escalator holding a disinfectant soap rag onto the handrail, so that if you put your hand on the handrail, you wouldn't risk any chance of having a germ from somebody else who would put their hand on the handrail. They had the handrails being continuously wiped. When I went to a railroad station, there was not a cigarette butt to be found on the platforms. Not one anywhere. Or on the tracks. They had men down there on the tracks in uniform, with little buckets, and wearing gloves, and sticks about this long, with a little pin on the end, and they would pick up the cigarette butts that anyone had thrown down on the tracks, so that there was no cigarette butt any place. I thought, this is amazing people. I was on the subway, and the seats on the subway were upholstered. Hello? Cloth upholstered. And there was a woman with a little boy, a little smaller than Gabriel. This is Aiden Soldier, I know him. He was even smaller than Gabriel. And he wanted to get up on the seat to look out the window. His mother took his shoes off, held them in her hand, and let him climb up on the seat so that he could look out the window. Because she didn't want him to get his shoes on the upholstery. We went on a tour of a wonderful temple where we had to walk up to this thing. Very hard. But the tour bus took us into a parking lot, and we got off and walked up the temple and came back down. And at the bottom, when we came back down, I found the driver of the tour bus polishing the hubcaps on his bus. I'd like to ask you if you've ever seen an American bus driver polishing the hubcaps on his bus. I thought, these people are going to pass us in the world economic competition, And it won't be too long. And in 1970, I predicted that within 10 years, Japan would be richer than the United States per capita income. And everybody said, that's ridiculous, but it happened. Well, now imagine God's prediction when He knows the thoughts and intents of everybody's heart. He knows what the rulers and the people of every nation all the time are thinking, and He can spot the trends. Now, you know, we can see trends. Historians can see trends. Well, it was no trick at all for God to say, it's not by magical, I'm watching and I can see the creatures. It's not that. It's because He knew everybody and their characters, and He could say to Nebuchadnezzar, your kingdom is great now, but the Medes and the Persians are going to come and knock you off very soon, and they will be the next great world power. But I see over in Greece some things developing, and by the way, this was the Trojan War already happened. I see some things over in Greece developing, and the Greeks, that's a people that's going to have an empire, and they'll knock off the Persians. And then I see over there those Romans getting started, and those are top guys, and they are going to come and be the next great kingdom. But when that happens, He says, I'm going to intervene, and there's going to be a stone cut out without human hand. You see, God not only reads all of our thoughts and intents, He knows His own thoughts and intentions. No, God doesn't know everything. He can't magically foretell. He doesn't know what you're going to do tomorrow morning, unless you've already decided. Then He knows, because He's read your thought. But God can be surprised. And the beautiful thing about it is that you can make Him happy. C.S. Lewis talks about this and says it's a huge privilege that we can be an ingredient in the divine happiness. You have the privilege of knowing that there's rejoicing in heaven. You had something to do with it. And there's rejoicing in heaven over every sinner that repents. So there are huge positive aspects to these truths, and that's why I'm telling you, I'm not knocking down omnipotence, omniscience, and omnipressence just for the fun of knocking them down. It's so that you'll see the love of God. If you do everything in advance, well, we've been over that. Today is for the positive aspects. He knows your heart, and He knows all the problems that are shaping up against you, and He can handle them, and He'll be with you always. Let's sing together. When all my troubles are over. That's one of my favorite hymns.